first person on the planet who accepted the Bitcoin. Yeah.
In a real world.
In a real world business.
You are pizza?
No. Just go ahead.
Okay. He is the author of the Bitcoin Banking Without a Bank, the first ever O'Reilly on the Bitcoin, and the first bestseller in German-speaking world. And currently, he is the strategic advisor for TontineTrust and Gibraltar. Okay, welcome him. Jörg.
Thank you. Hello, and thank you for having me here. I want to talk and introduce to you the project that I right now am a strategic advisor to, and that's TontineTrust.com in Gibraltar. And TontineTrust is running an ICO right now, but I don't really want to talk about that ICO. I would rather talk about the product and the spirit and ideology behind it. And I think it makes a lot of sense to actually follow Eileen's advice, because she once asked me what brought you to Tontines. And I get the explanation I gave her, she very much liked, so I'm standing here right now and I'm going to first explain something about a traditional Chinese healthcare system to an audience that is half Chinese, which I find kind of interesting. You will understand why I take this detour. Having learned about that traditional Chinese healthcare system was really a defining moment in my life, because it opened my eyes to so many other problems in the world. And let me just wrap it up. The idea of that traditional healthcare system that was deployed over centuries, maybe even millennia, is you have a village with people and you have a doctor in that village, and that doctor gets money from everybody in the village as long as they are healthy. Once somebody gets sick, they stop paying the doctor. I compared that idea to our existing healthcare systems in the modern world, and when you do that you realize, wow, that ancient system, which was deployed in other forms in other cultures as well, gives the incentive to the healthcare system in this small community to make sure that everybody who gets sick is being cured as fast as possible again. And you even have doctors that have a very high incentivation to literally walk around and help people not get sick. If you compare it to our modern healthcare systems, we have actually entirely perverted these systems. We have profit-oriented healthcare corporations that actually make more money the more people are sick and the sicker those people are. Funnily enough, I have only, this is from 16th of April, read, there was a leak from some Goldman Sachs research that they did for the pharmaceutical pharmacy, and they actually came to the conclusion curing patients is not a sustainable business model. Now, what has this got to do with Tontines? Both this Chinese traditional healthcare system and Tontines, which I'm going to explain a bit more in detail in a moment, both are what I call brilliant solutions that we were stupid enough to abolish. It's literally like that. If you look around in our modern society, we have a lot of systems that cause us problems, and which have replaced systems that make much more sense. Bitcoin, for example, is one of these systems. The old system that we abolished was sound money based on gold, for example. We replaced it with manipulatable, inflatable, debasable fiat debt currencies. And when Bitcoin turned up, we all of a sudden had a solution again for a sound money system. It's no coincidence that Bitcoin is mimicking certain properties of gold, which was a sound monetary system. Now, when Bitcoin turned up and this beautiful blockchain technology, I started thinking about where in our society do we have problems because we're running systems that have replaced more reasonable systems in the past. If you look at what kind of problems we have in our economy, there is one thing that hardly anybody talks about, and that is the retirement funding crisis. Retirement systems in the whole world are literally screwed, are entirely underfunded, and I have a number here. The 20 top OECD countries have their retirement systems underfunded by $78 trillion. That's 20 countries underfunded by $78 trillion. That figure is from last year. By now it's probably $80 trillion. And just to give you a perspective or some relation to something, there was a financial crisis in Europe caused by Cyprus a couple of years ago. And Cyprus had to be, the Cypriot banks had to be bailed out with $10 billion. Everybody was scared that this would collapse the Eurozone economy, and then the whole global economy would just follow the Eurozone and everything would crash because of a problem of $10 billion. And we're talking about a financial problem here of $80 trillion, which is 80,000 billions, which is literally 8,000. This problem is 8,000 times bigger than Cyprus. So Jörg thinks, hey, we need to find a solution to this problem because our societies are running straight into it. And after I had learned that humanity in the past had actually literally solutions for all kinds of problems, I was like, let's have a look into the past and see if we can find a solution there that we can recreate with crypto technology. And when it's about retirement funding, and you look into the past, then the solution is actually huge. It's there because it's been running for centuries, and it's called Tontines. So, the basic principle of a tontine is that, as with other retirement funding systems, people pay into a pool, and then that money is being redistributed to everybody who had paid in. The difference to a tontine is the redistributions are only paid out to people who are still alive. That means you pay into a tontine, and you die, and the money you paid in stays in that pot and is being redistributed to everybody who is still alive, which leads to what we call the tontine effect. And that is that the older you get, the more money you will get out of your pension fund. Now, this system had been established, at least in the whole Western world, for over like 300 years. At certain times, 80% of all retirement money was in tontines. Why don't we have tontines today? For a very specific reason. All the money that is being paid into a tontine is being paid to people who paid it into there. There is no money left over for shareholder value. There is no money left over for marketing and public relations agencies. There's no money, there's no bonuses for banks. There is no commission for the sales rep army of certain corporations and so on. And literally, insurance companies lobbied tontines away about 100 years ago because they can create shareholder value and make profit with literally every other product than a tontine. Tontines do work. A great example that we just only recently found, because we're trying to find where are retirement systems that kind of function like a tontine. Maybe even nobody calls them a tontine, but they work the same way. A colleague of mine just recently made a blog post on TontineTrust.com because he found the Swiss Air example. Just to describe it shortly, Swiss Airline went bankrupt around 2008, I think, also believe. And the employees of Swiss Air were lucky enough that their corporate pension fund they paid in was not part of the assets of Swissair. So nobody could take that money away from the pension fund. There were no new people taken into that pension fund. It was just like, okay, Swissair is dead, but that pension fund, that retirement funding system that was created will just keep on running, which means when people who are in that system are dying, the other people get more. That article is beautiful. You find it on TontineTrust.com, the blog. And it's literally the former employees of Swissair who are now in retirement have just increased their monthly income from 7,000 Swiss francs to 16,000 Swiss francs, which sort of shows you Tontines do work. So we have Tontine as a actually brilliant retirement funding system, but that's not all really, and that's why I'm here on this blockchain event. Because if you throw some new technology into this whole system, like biometric identification, like tokenized assets secured on a blockchain and distributed by smart contracts, then what you get, and I wrote that down here for me, then what you get really is a trustless peer-to-peer retirement funding system that cannot go broke, ever. Fully transparent and auditable by everybody at any time, that makes sure that the older the participants get, the more money they will have at their disposal. So to wrap this up and come back to the beginning, what we're trying to do, what we're aiming at with TontineTrust.com really is to re-establish one of these brilliant solutions that we were stupid enough to abolish, and have a solution for one of the biggest problems that our modern global economies are facing. Thank you for listening. If there's any question, I'm open. I don't know how much time we have. If you want to, if you're interested in buying into that ICO, I'm literally the wrong person to talk to because I'm there for other topics, but I can get you in touch with the right people. A question?
Out myself as the most ignorant person, but how do you spell that word you use all the time, Tontine?
Okay, it's this is named after the inventor, I think Lorenzo di Tontino, who invented tontines in the year 1600 something, and it's Tontine. Tontine. Can we write that down somewhere? No, I'm sorry, I have no presentation or anything like that.
Okay.
But it's Tontine, and the company I work for is TontineTrust.com.
Okay.
Do you run on a specific blockchain on top of like Ethereum and smart contracts, or you have your own?
We are right now on Stellar, but the aim here is really, and now I'm using a word that Bitcoiners like I hated some years ago, and that's being blockchain agnostic. That means we are aiming to build the system in such a way that if Stellar, whatever, that we can move to another blockchain. It's Stellar right now because our techies think it's the best solution right now. There's a question back there?
Who makes sure that the people are dead?
So this is really one of the question was who makes sure that the people are dead? The point is that you don't need to make sure that the people are dead, you need to make sure that the people who are getting money are actually still alive. We call it the proof of life problem, and this is really, but this is really one of the biggest challenge, because when we started trying to build crypto tontines, the actual aim was to create totally anonymous, decentralized systems, but we came to the conclusion that as of today, you cannot create decentralized anonymous proof of life. So hence the tontines will not be anonymized, which is fine. which is kind of like the wet dream of a crypto guy like me. I would have liked to have it totally decentralized and anonymized, but that's not possible. So yeah, we're working with a combination of biometric identification and digital identification and some other measurements. You can find detailed information about that on our website, TontineTrust.com, and in that white paper. But yeah, it's literally the biggest challenge if you want to create tontines is the proof of life problem. Thank you.